What is up, world? It is time again for the College Football Show Week 8. And normally, I got to watch, I make a watch joke, I say, let's look at the time. We're not doing that this week. We're changing it up. Instead, we're going to say, check your chair, make sure it's broken as always, because if it's not broken, then I don't know if you're a part of the fan club. We really
You,
haven't
you,
established that yet.
yeah. If you guys can't see it, this is the broken chair they talk about all the time. This is how y'all got your names.
Yes. The broken share is a beautiful moment. As you know, here with Chooch, and sadly, for the second week in a row, Jacob on the IR. So
Looking to get him
we
back
miss
in
you, buddy.
about. We're looking to get him back in a couple weeks. He's a real great addition to our team, and we really need him to succeed. So, hope he's out there. But next man up mentality. Go Tigers.
That's right. Coach O snuck in again. He always finds a way in Chooch's room. It's a weird story. We'll get into that. Maybe on a special edition. Who knows?
Behind the
But
scenes.
let's behind the scenes, yes. Let's get into what you all came here for. Let's start off on college football. And we're going to start off with a game today, ironically enough, a battle in the Sun Belt. James Madison, undefeated, unbeaten, and I just heard from Chooch, their coach, sending a letter to the boys upstairs going, hey, we can handle a bowl game because they're still on technically 2 years. They're not allowed. They will be next year. But anyways, let's focus on this game here. Marshall is the home team, and it has been not the best few weeks for Marshall. They were undefeated. They beat Old Dominion, and then they ran in Tennessee State, had a heartbreaker on the road, and then it did not get better. If anything, showed a lot more cracks and a lot of scariness under the surface for this Marshall team as they got picked apart by Georgia State. James Madison, they've been cruising. They've only had a few scares this year, and really looks like there is no end in sight for this JMU team. They could potentially go on and only have maybe one loss this year. Give these guys a look if you're not doing anything tonight. JMU, a 3.5 point favorite on the road. Not a lot of love for Marshall. They think the downward trend is going to continue. Chooch, what do you say?
I'm gonna come out and say it. Listen, folks, this JMU. I said this I said this actually before we started the season. JMU uber athletic team, insanely fun to watch. I said this last year. No one believed me. They ended up having a bust at the end of the year and fell apart. Right. Well, now they're like, okay, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. And well, folks, guess what? They're 6-0, and probably the best group of five conference. I'm just gonna come out and say it. American, you're number two. Sunbelt's number one in the group of five. Um, and as far as Marshall, listen, Georgia State's a good team, but they're not this JMU team. But you're home. Anything can happen. JMU's been tested. They took out an undefeated Georgia Southern. Actually, they dominated a very strong Georgia Southern team last week. So I'm going to go Dukes here with this one. I can't say no on the Dukes team.
Well, I think Marshall's going to fight hard in this game and really try and prove like, hey, it was just a bad 2 weeks. It was a bang bang thing, but ultimately James Madison is looking forward, and they're advancing at an amazing rate. So yeah, I think James Madison continues, but I think Marshall is going to put up one heck of a fight. Trying to say, hey, we're not done here. We still got a pretty good season to go, maybe make a good bowl, but not tonight. Dukes. All right, next one here, and this will actually kick off the Saturday slate for us. Oklahoma, undefeated Oklahoma, the only team to beat Texas in the Red River rivalry, and they kind of got a little bit lower than many people thought, myself included. They're only ranked number 6. Kind of puzzling to me when you beat that really good Texas team. Anyways, UCF comes into town. Gus Malzone really needs a statement to the UCF fan base as they are 3-3, and maybe this could be the last year of the Gus Bus. Last 3 games losing, and the most hurting and embarrassing one came 2 weeks ago against Baylor. They blew that game, and Baylor hung on, beat them by 1 point. Oklahoma coming off fresh. Last week, you think about Oklahoma and you kept going, where are they on the schedule? They're on a bye week. So this team is roaring, ready to go, ready to continue. Brent Venables has loved this team, and Dylan Gabriel has been a tremendous story this year. Chooch, I know everything's pointing for the Sooners, but will it be something that maybe they look past? Is this a trap game? Will UCF pull one out for the Gus Bus? What do you say?
So I think so. I'm going to come out and say it just straight up. Oklahoma wins this game, but
Yep.
only reason is Oklahoma had a whole week to absorb that win. Right, we had got this big win against our number one rival after we got blanked last year, and I mean they got embarrassed last year in the first season under Venables, and this year they were like, we're going to fight back, we're going to win this game, and they did, and they had that week to soak it up. And I think UCF comes out swinging at first, but Oklahoma's defense is just too much to handle at the end. And Dylan Gabriel, wow, kid, you're good. Knew you were good, but didn't know you were this good. You showed up and you made some impressive plays when it mattered. I'm going Sooners.
All right. I mean, this game is in Norman, right? I mean, I don't really have to say much else. Oklahoma wins this game. UCF, they have been inconsistent as heck, and especially, coming into this game on a 3-game skid, make it 4. Oklahoma wins, and I'm going to say Oklahoma puts up at least 50.
Wow.
I don't see an end in sight for this Sooner team. Not this week at least. Maybe, going forward, because Oklahoma does have a tendency to sometimes fizzle out, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Oklahoma
Right.
this week. All right, next one here in a game that is closer to Chooch's heart and America's heart with all the madness going on here. Air Force goes on and takes on a rival in Navy. Game always a fun one to watch. Lot on the line, especially more so for this Air Force team. They're undefeated. They're looking to continue that path and go 7-0. They're in the top 22, as you see, number 22. And I said top 22, top 25. We'll get that eventually. Air Force is a 10.5-point road favorite. Not a lot of Navy supporters in this game. They say relatively easy. Air Force ekes it out, but remember, this is a big rivalry game, and nothing is for sure on a Saturday in college football. Chooch, where are you going?
Listen, man, them midshipmen are tired of this 12-year losing streak we got to Air Force. And this Navy team is better than people give it credit for. The passing's isn't there yet, but they're slowly working their way out of the triple option. The offense seems to be a lot better. The defense is fantastic. We're playing good football. I'm going to give this one to Navy simply because it's a home game. They're in Annapolis. They're charged up. And the winner of this, when we play Army, and if we win this game, Commander-in-Chief trophy. So, anchors away, my boys. Anchors away.
Oh, I mean, how can you pick against that? I think Air Force is going to come out and they're going to play inspired football. Undefeated. They want to remain undefeated, but Navy looks at that Air Force team that's undefeated and they go, wouldn't it be funny and a brotherly thing to do to screw up their season? And I think that's what's going to happen. The Navy wins this one. It's going to be close, but Navy takes it late touchdown. All right, next one here. We got a showdown in the SEC. Mississippi State and Arkansas. And if you're a fan of either of these teams, you're like, man, maybe basketball season might be better, or baseball, or softball. it's not football this year. Mississippi State 3-3, so still a decent opportunity to make a bowl game and make something of the season. Arkansas 2-5 with a just heart wrencher in Tuscaloosa. They almost pulled it out, but they could not do it. It was 24-21 late. Arkansas's fighting everything they had. They just could not stop the tide. Mississippi State last week had a pretty nice bounce back, beat Western Michigan a little bit closer than everybody else thought. Now, if you look at Arkansas's record, you must be thinking, how did this team play Alabama close? How did they play LSU close? How did they play Ole Miss close? And BYU close? Because, I mean, they're 2-5. They got to be awful, right? Wrong. They've been close. They just have not been close enough. And Mississippi State, on the other hand, they're just wacky. One week you see an awful team, the next week you see a pretty good team, the next week you see a mediocre team. It's like Mike Leach is back in coaching this team in that respect. Arkansas is a 6.5-point home favorite. Chooch, where are you going in this 11 o'clock kickoff?
I was muted there. Hi, sorry, I muted myself. I don't know who to pick in this game simply because Arkansas. I don't know what's going on with this Hogs team. Pittman has got to get something going with these guys. You can only lose one more game the whole year. You got to win out now to make a bowl game. And yeah, like you said, we don't know which. We don't like you said. Let's like Mike Leach coaching the Mississippi State team. You can prepare for 4 of them, and 10th team shows up. So who knows what you're going to get? I'm going to take. Man, I really don't know who to take in this one. Cole, you got that coin flipper app thing?
Yes, I do.
Can you use it real quick?
Sure.
Actually, that's a lie. We're gonna take Mississippi. We're gonna take Arkansas simply because of the fact that they're riding that little bit of a high off of the Bama game. They're home this week. I'm gonna take the Hogs. Woo pig suey.
All right, man. I like Mississippi State. They're just so weird. I think Arkansas is starting to find their stride a little bit. I mean, I know, at this point in the season, you really don't want to hear find your stride, but I think all those close losses prepared them for a game or two like this, maybe even a few more down the line. So I'm going to go with Arkansas, and I think they really play for Sam Pittman. I don't think they want him fired. I think these players really love him and maybe even see him, like a team father figure. It almost seems like watching this team play. So I think Arkansas wins for him. All right, moving on to the next one. Here we got an ace. Oh,
I forgot to mute myself. I was saying something. Sorry. Real quick, and Arkansas fans love Sam Pittman. Just gonna say it.
See. True Arkansas fans, I agree. But if you look at the internet people who want Arkansas to win now, not so much.
Okay, fair.
All right, moving on to an ACC battle here. We got the Boston College Golden Eagles coming into town to take on the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech. And this is pretty even. I mean, they're both 3-3. Conference records literally flipped, as you can see down there. Georgia Tech 2-1, BC 1-2, and Boston College's big achievement this year that they can kind of hang their hat on. They played Florida State close, almost had an upset. As for Georgia Tech, they beat Miami because, Miami forgot what kneeing the football was, and they ended up taking full advantage. Both of these teams could really use a win in terms of looking for a bowl game bid. Ultimately, Vegas goes Georgia Tech's a 4.5-point favorite at home. They think it'll be closer, but maybe Boston College edges this one out. Not too many, given. What do you say, Chooch?
I'm going to take Georgia Tech here in a very close game simply because it's in Georgia Tech and they're playing better football than the Boston Colleges. So I got more faith in the Yellow Jackets than I do Boston College.
Okay, so I don't know what exactly makes me pick this way, but hear me out, folks. I'm going Boston College. I don't know why. I don't know what is telling me to do this, but I have a feeling that this is the time for Boston College to come up and beat Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech is so weird. I mean, one week they're up and they're, beating Miami. Next week, they beat Wake Forest. The week before that, they lose, to who did they lose to? Why is this slipping my mind? Bowling Green. The week before that, they lose to Ole Miss, and of course, the opener, they should have beat Louisville. They lost to Louisville. I mean, they're just such a wishy-washy team. I think Boston College's consistency is the answer. Not to mention, off of the last 2 weeks, they won, so make it 3. All right, next game here, we got a Pac-12 battle. Washington State comes in, and this is a much needed time for them to do something of urgency. After last week, they got absolutely destroyed by Arizona 44-6, and get this, it was in their own backyard. Arizona came in and absolutely dominated them on every front of the game. Oregon, on the other hand, had the game of the week, maybe even game of the year, with Washington. It went back and forth all game. But ultimately, Dan Lanning takes the blame for this loss. He said, if I could have, coached a moment or so different, this team would have won. He took full blame. And Oregon, of course, how does that impact this team mentally moving forward into a game like this? But the nice thing for them is it is at home in Autzen Stadium. You still have an outside shot at the playoffs. There's a lot to play for in Eugene, and Washington State would like nothing more than to knock them off. Vegas says big bounce back for Oregon. They're a 20-point favorite. Chooch, will it be the time for Butch and Washington State to come in, sneak up, and knock the Ducks out of their own stadium? What do you think?
No, I really think that Oregon's angry. Like, and Dan Lanning, yeah, you listen, dude, you stayed aggressive the whole game. All right, you didn't change your play calling for nothing. You said, "Hey, I'm here to win," and that was probably killer instinct you didn't have last year. So, I listen. I give Oregon all the props in that. That's a tough game to lose, tough way to lose. But you know what? You guys went out swinging, or like hard too. And Washington State, you're going into a really pissed off team in a really loud stadium. So good luck, Ducks.
All right. You know, normally I think about this game, but I don't think so anymore. And the reason is Dan Lanning and Bo Nix. Think about the last time we had an upset Dan Lanning. That wind back the clock, you look at the game against Colorado, he was not the happiest about Deion Sanders, and Oregon destroyed Colorado at home. Now they're upset again. Who pissed him off? Your brother, Washington State. They pissed him off. So yeah, they're gonna take it out on you. This is gonna get ugly. Oregon big. All right, next one here. We got another SC. Well, when I say another, of course, I don't mean back to back, but I'm saying on the show another SEC battle here: Tennessee and Alabama. This is a battle in T-Town, and let's just say memories don't die in Tuscaloosa. They remember all too well what happened a year ago. It was a knuckleball kick that kicked the Crimson Tide to their first loss a year ago. Now, fast forward, and the scene looks kind of similar. Tennessee, only one loss. Alabama, this is the part where it changes, one loss. And both of these teams need this win to keep competing in divisions respectively. Tennessee bouncing up, trying to take that SEC East from Georgia, Alabama, trying to control their own destiny in the West and keep that going. Of course, they got LSU knocking on the door and Ole Miss if Alabama could lose 2 games this year. It's very interesting with both of these teams. Now, Nick Saban has a history of winning this game minus last year. He had a pretty big record, but he even has a better record when it comes to revenge games. The only time that I can think of to where Nick Saban lost a revenge game was against Ole Miss back-to-back years in the Grove in 14 and then at home in 15. Ever since then, I could not tell you the other time when Saban lost 2 in a row on a revenge game from a next year. Keep that in mind while picking this one. But Josh Heupel, he looks ready. He thinks that this team can do it, especially after last week pulling it out against A&M. It's a battle, Chooch. Where you going?
I still don't think Alabama's killer mentality is there. That being said, this is in T-Town. Tennessee barely beat them
Right.
last year in Rocky Top, but this Tennessee team is better this year than I think last year, all around. I've been conflicted with this one because, like, my gut says don't bet against Nick, like you said, but something's just saying Rocky Top. Ooh, elephants can't climb up Rocky Tops. Volunteers win this one. Close game though. Close game though.
Ooh.
Typical Nick Saban fashion. Got to lose it on like a field goal or just because you guys can't finish a game out apparently. So Volunteers.
Man. This game, like I said, the intensity has not let up, and it's been a whole year. If anything, it's more intense. Um, Alabama's going to be rocking, obviously. Ryan Denny's going to be going crazy. Tennessee's going to come in with a mentality to win, but I'm going with Nick Saban. You cannot bet against him in a revenge game against Tennessee. You can't do it because he has not lost to Tennessee twice since being at Alabama, and I don't think this is the time to start that. So give me the Tide plus in Brian Denny. All right, next one here, we Big Ten battle, Wisconsin at Illinois. And, well, let's say this game is rather deflating compared to what it could be. Illinois 3-4 on the year, not quite what you want under a second year after Bielema had a really oh. All right. Anyways, I'll keep going, I guess. We'll get Chooch back
You're good.
occasionally.
Keep
Oh,
going.
okay, there we go. Bielema had a pretty good year a year ago, and now you see this team and the regression is quite a lot. Wisconsin, on the other hand, with Luke Fickell, pretty good starting year, 4-2. Of course, that loss to Iowa last week really hurt this team. They only scored 6 points against that good Iowa defense, and it was just kind of a typical Big Ten low-scoring game, and Friends ultimately got the win. With that being said, Illinois won last week. Close on the road at Maryland. They're riding a little wave of momentum. They're looking to continue that, and it's at home in Champaign. Can they continue to keep that streak alive, maybe even push to a bowl season? Wisconsin's a 2.5 point road favorite, though. Chooch, who do you give the edge to?
So a part of me really wants to say Illinois, especially after that win last week against Maryland. But Wisconsin, you're going to do it. You're going to come out here. You're going to take care of. They're going to take care of Illinois, but not by a lot. I think it's 7 or 10. I don't think it's anything more than 10. So Badgers on a good game. Just this one's going to be fun, and I got Fickle will be ready for Illinois and what they throw at them and how sleepy they can make you.
I love the wording of that. Words are always a challenge.
Especially the last couple of episodes.
Yeah, no lie. I'm gonna go with you though. I think Wisconsin. Uh, listen, you cannot have. I mean, unless you're Scott Frost, back-to-back weeks to where they're close, they're grinded out, and you lose both of them. You have to win eventually. And I think it's the vice versa of last week. It's a slow game, it's a grind game, it's a Big Ten game. In other words. I just think Wisconsin has a few more plays that go right instead of Illinois, but real close. All right, next one, and one of my personal favorite rivalries, the Battle of the N, Northwestern and Nebraska. Now, if you're wondering, why would this be one of your favorite rivalries? This was one of the first weeks that we covered, not the first year, but I think it was 4 years ago, maybe, when we were covering this, and we were still young in the show, and it just clicked. It was like the battle of the end. This is a really cool thing. Let's see, which end team could be better. That, like I told Chooch before the show, these two teams could be the worst teams in the Big Ten. We'd still cover this game. With that being said, Northwestern is the underdog in this game, 11.5 to be precise. Even though, keep this in mind, when Northwestern gets counted out of a game like this, they somehow find a way to win. Just look at Minnesota. If you turn back the clocks 3 weeks, they were down by 21 late in that game, and they came back and beat Minnesota. Nebraska, on the other hand, they've been doing pretty good themselves and pretty bad themselves. They've had moments of triumph and moments of just sadness. But last week, it was a moment of triumph. They went into Champaign, they beat Illinois 20-7. Can they keep it up, or will it be Northwestern sneaking in again, counted out again, pulling off another big upset? What do you see, Chooch?
See, to me, Northwestern could only beat like the lower tier. I mean, Minnesota's not lower tier. It took you an overtime to beat them, but Minnesota also has a habit of shooting themselves in the foot. You beat UTEP by 31 points, and then you barely beat Howard by 3. Meanwhile, Nebraska beat Illinois by 13. They lost to Michigan by 38. Beat La Tech, beat NIU, and lost to Colorado by 22. I'm taking Nebraska here. Matt Rule's got this team looking better. Quarterback play has been a little bit better. Not great, a little bit better. So I'm just gonna take Nebraska here. I got something saying them Huskers.
Man, if this game was at Northwestern, I'd pick Northwestern, but it's not. The red crowd's going to be in full effect. Matt Rule's going to have his guys ready, and they win this game. It's going to be, a close one throughout maybe 3 or 2 quarters, but then Nebraska pulls away. They have the better talent, better coach. So, yeah, give me them Huskers. All right, next game here, we got Oklahoma State coming in to West Virginia, taking on them in Morgantown. And it's really a shocker when you think about this Oklahoma State team and where they were. This was the same team who got manhandled at home to South Alabama not too long ago. And then they lost to Iowa State, and everybody was like, fire Gundy. Gundy's time might be up. And I think the team was mad about that as they went back-to-back weeks beating Kansas teams, taking it out on the Wildcats and the Jayhawks. West Virginia, on the other hand, everything was looking up. And then a Hail Mary that got answered for the Houston Cougars knocked that streak off. Ultimately, West Virginia's a 3.5-point favorite here. Not a lot of people doubting them in this game. They say they should handle it. They should have a nice week back. What do you say, Chooch?
So a part of me really wants to see, obviously, West Virginia. This game's going to be close. Let's put it this way. Oklahoma State doesn't know what they're doing, where they're heading, where the program's going. Mike Gundy doesn't know how to apparently get the best out of this talent, which should be one of the top schools in the country. This Oklahoma State team has always got incredible arms at quarterback, good running backs that are versatile, that can bust through a seam. They got decent receivers. They always have a pretty decent tight end. I mean, they always got a good defense. Linebackers like crazy. Linemen that can rush. And why is this team 4-2 always, or 6 losses always, 5 losses always? Because the head coach, and because they lose games like this, where I mean, West Virginia's good. They're not great. They win games. They're sneaky, but I think, oh man, I really, really want to go West Virginia here, but I really, really want to go Oklahoma State. Um, I'm gonna take the Cowboys here. I got a strange feeling about Hoax.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you here though. This is going to be an interesting game. And a game both teams need to win, but I think Oklahoma State ultimately gets the last laugh here just because when Gundy has his team in a full swing like he seemingly does right now, it's a tough team to stop. And I'm not betting on James Neal to outcoach him. So no hate on Neil. I mean, I think he's okay, but he's not better than Gundy, and I think that's going to show more so than anything in this game. So yeah, give me the Pokes. All right, our second out of 4 in a row Big 12 games. So Big 12 teams are really making your money here. If you're a Big 12 fan, you might even like the show. Who knows? Texas Tech and BYU. I still am not used to calling them a Big 12 team. It still taking a little bit to get used to that, so forgive me on that, folks. Texas Tech is a 3-point road favorite. This is a kickoff under the lights at 6 o'clock Central, of course. And BYU, let's just say they got, well, their ass kicked. They 44-11. Game was well at hand for the Horned Frogs, and it was a road loss for this BYU team. So you might think they come home, they lick their wounds, they're ready to go, they can beat Texas Tech, and Texas Tech is coming off of a loss from Kansas State. Both these teams really need a bounce back here, especially BYU only putting up 11 points. Will they get that bounce back, or will it be Texas Tech slinging it around and what we're used to out of this team?
So I really want to say it's what we're used to out of this team, but given what Texas Tech and their counterpart Oklahoma State have been like this year, who knows? But we're going to take the Red Raiders here simply because BYU's offense is too one-dimensional and Texas Tech's defense is going to expose the living hell out of that. So Red Raiders. Just repeat last week. Rinse and repeat.
Oh man, this game's just kind of like a mirror image almost of these two teams. You know, they're both really good at throwing the ball. Texas Tech's better at running. Both defenses really have some good moments and then some absolutely horrible moments. So I don't know. I think BYU's a little too inconsistent for my liking. So for that reason, I'm gonna take Texas Tech. I think more consistent. Just in what you know in these type of games. So yeah, give me Red Raiders here on the road. Next one here. Speaking of Texas teams on the road, Texas teams having to respond after a loss. That's 2 in a row, by the way. Texas, of course, losing in the Red River rivalry game to Oklahoma 34-30. And the big question coming out of that week is what is the response of this Texas team? There is no week that'll test you like a week coming off of a loss. Sarkisian has a tendency of either doing really well after a loss or the team collapsing, dying, and going away. There really isn't a whole lot of in between. For Houston, you just came off of an exhilarating Hail Mary that got answered against that West Virginia team. Not a lot of people picked you to win that game then, and you won. And now you find yourself in a Battle of Texas to where not too many people picked you to win this game either, only about 6 some percent, and you could do it again. Ultimately, Texas is a 23.5-point favorite. Can Houston pull the shock, Chooch, or will it be Texas on the right track again?
Yeah, Texas bouncing back here. Listen, I want to say Houston. If this was the Houston team from last year or maybe a couple years before that, I'd say, yeah, 100%. But this Houston team is just, they shoot themselves in the foot too much. I think they're ready for the moment, but they're not at the same time, if you know what I mean. Like they can get there, they just can't finish it. So I'm taking the Longhorns here. I know you let me down 2 weeks ago, but that's okay. I expect it. I accept it because that was a hell of a football game. I think you for probably one of the best games of the year, minus what we just saw last week between Oregon and Washington. So, listen, you're gonna do it, Longhorns.
So I want everybody to remember something. Last week, I picked Houston to win, and nobody else here on the show, Jacob, and the people in the Discord they all picked West Virginia, and Houston won. Would I be crazy enough to do it 2 weeks in a row against a better team and a ranked team? Hell no. No, not this week. Texas bounce backs, wins this one, gets back into maybe the CFP conversation. So, yeah, hook them as well. All right, next one here to cap off 4 in a row Big 12 games. We got TCU going on the road to take on the Wildcats of Kansas State. And both of these teams, quite a lot of questions and really following suit of what the Big 12 conference looks like. Very inconsistent for a majority of those Big 12 teams. TCU goes from losing to Iowa State pretty handily at home, or no, excuse me, on the road, to winning at home, dominating BYU. Kansas State, on the other hand, kind of follows a similar pattern. They suffer a loss on the road to Oklahoma State, then they bounce back and they beat Texas Tech handily on the road again. What is with this conference? It's every year. So, Chooch, in battle of the two very consistent Big 12 teams, who gets this win?
Of the consistent, inconsistent teams.
Yeah, the consistent,
The
inconsistent
consistently
Big 12
inconsistent
teams.
TCU. Listen, we don't know which one of you showing up, whether it's a team that can play actual football or a team that decides that we haven't seen a football field for the first half of the football game. That being said, I think Kansas State's defense is just a little too good here. I think the offense is able to keep up with this TCU offense. The defense wins in this game. I'm going Wildcats.
Ooh. I'm going to go TCU just because I think they found something. I hope, or it'll be back to the inconsistent. But I think, last week they did a really good job of shutting down BYU. And I think that team was like, hey, where was this all year? And not to mention, I think Sonny Dykes is a really good coach. And I think he, really has this team on board. So give me the Horned Frogs. I honestly don't know what to expect score-wise, so just give me the Horned Frogs. No score prediction. All right, now thankfully we're out of the Big 12 and we're heading back to the SEC. We got a showdown under the lights in Jordan-Hare as the Ole Miss Rebels come to town only having one loss, and that was to the Crimson Tide in T-Town. Now, with that being said, ever since that point, they've done pretty well for themselves. They knocked off LSU in the Grove, knocked off Arkansas in the Grove, a little bit closer than most Ole Miss fans would have liked for that game. And then on top of all that, they came off of a bye week this week, so they should be well rested, should be prepared. But again, the key word in that sentence is should be. Auburn coming off of an ass beating in the Death Valley, the real one, not the ACC version. And it did not look good at all for this Auburn team. They struggled to throw the football, had some okay moments, but ultimately Peyton Throne just did not seem to have it. Off their last 3 weeks, 3 L's, and most people expect kind of the same. Ole Miss here by 6.5 is what they say. Chooch, will it be a shocker in Jordan-Hare, and will Kiffin pull off a loss like we've seen in the past? Or will the lane train keep rolling and this Ole Miss team continues to fight in that West?
Man, I don't know because like I really want to say Lane Train, Land Shark, whatever you want to call him, Lane Kiffin, your daddy, your popcorn princess, whatever you want to call him. Listen, he's good. He knows what he's doing. But Hugh Freeze is going to have his boys ready. We saw how tough it is to play there with Hugh Freeze just as the head coach of a Auburn team against Georgia. But Lane Kiffin's offense is way too potent. So I'm taking the Rebs. I don't know the score, like you said last game. I don't know the score, but it's going to be a fun one. I'm taking the Rebels.
All right. Man, I was up in the air about this. Like, I really, think Ole Miss is doing a lot of good things. I think they're, really focused on what is to come, but I think they're a little too focused on the future. And I think they kind of look at this game and they go, we'll beat Auburn. I mean, Auburn's not very good. They can't throw, like I mentioned. We're just kind of going to walk in and we'll have a win. And I think that's going to cost them. So give me the shocker of the show so far for me. Auburn Tigers pull it out, beating Ole Miss. All right. Next game here, we got Appalachian State taking on Old Dominion. It is a Sun Belt battle in this one. And App State, up and down season. Old Dominion, a little bit more stable, but ultimately still just tough. I mean, you played Marshall tough, barely lost by 6, played Wake Forest almost and should have had them, but ultimately ended up losing that one. App State coming off of a very close loss at home to Coastal Carolina. Both of these teams could use a statement victory this week. I don't know if it will come, but Chooch, what do you say?
Man, I really want to take. I mean, if there was a way for both teams to win, it would be great. But there isn't in college, just isn't the pros. I'm going to take the Mountaineers here in a very close game in Old Dominion. I'll be down there actually come game time. So just saying, not doing that though, but I'll be there, so I'll be able to hear it. Taking App State here in a close one. So ODU is going to be there. They're going to fight. I think both teams are in very similar territory. I know App State just lost. I believe they just lost the quarterback to the draft last year, so they're still building on that. But App State down years don't happen for long. So Mountaineers, close one in Norfolk.
All right. I'm going to go with Appalachian State as well. I just think they're more structured together as a team. And I think, last week, again, you have that crushing loss to Coastal. I think it's very much on their mind. And they go, no, we're not letting this happen a second time. We're going to win one on the road here. All right, next one here. We got a Big 12. Wow, not Big 12. Big 10 battle. There we go.
+2.
Right conference. -2 in this case. Michigan Wolverines come into town to take on Sparty. Now, I know if you look at these records, you're going, why is this even a game? Why are we talking about this? But remember, one thing is certain when you have a brother, it doesn't matter what your record is. You're always going to play tough. It doesn't matter how something looks. It's going to be a battle regardless. All I'm going to say, I know, like I said, everything points to Michigan. This should be a blowout on paper, but you cannot take the emotion out of a big game. Michigan State would love to play spoiler to Michigan this year. Ultimately, though, Michigan's a 24-point favorite. Not a lot of concern. But huge, will it be close? Will there be a Sparty upset at home? We'll see.
I think Michigan State's got a lot to prove still this year, but listen, Michigan's on a whole nother level, operating differently, and they might lose their head coach again. Who knows? For another few more games after this scouting, quote unquote, violation, stealing science. That's scouting NCAA. I don't know what else you want from these people. They have to scout so they know what you're doing. We're in a shotgun. Yeah, whatever. Cool. But Michigan, this game is close for maybe 15 minutes. And I mean like actual 15 minutes, not like 15 minutes of game time. I mean like legitimately 15 minutes. So like coming out of the tunnel. Wolverines.
Like 7 minutes a game.
Yeah, just about.
Oh man, I think Michigan State's come out and they're gonna have uh some fire, for this team. They're gonna knock them in the mouth a little bit, say, hey, this is still a rivalry. But Michigan, at the end of the day, is just too talented. JJ McCarthy's operating at a really good pace. This offense looks pretty good. Blake Corum is still Blake Corum. And the Michigan defense, I mean, say what you will. Yeah, they don't really play anybody, but they're beating who's in front of them. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So Michigan dominates in this one. All right, next one here, we got Army and LSU. Army coming off of a rough week as they got shut out by Troy last week, 19-0. LSU, on the other hand, dominating victory, looking like almost the old LSU, beating Auburn by 30 at home. But much again, here comes another warning. Tune in, folks. Really, really listen to this part. When Army is in a game like this, they have a tendency to play really close. They have a tendency to maybe even bring a game like this to overtime. Just look at Michigan in 2019. They had them on the ropes. They almost beat them in the big house. They just couldn't pull it out. LSU, on the other hand, looking good. The offense is looking in swing still. The defense is played really good last week. I mean, there's not a whole lot of consistency there, but it seems to be getting to a good level. Chooch, is there a chance for Army to take this one and knock out LSU's playoff hopes in this game?
I mean, maybe if our defense decides to just stay in the dorms the whole game, maybe. But I don't think Army's defense is ready for this offense. I think LSU's offense comes out. Now, mind you, this is a very athletic Army team. We expect that. They're going to be able to hang on for a bit, but I just think LSU's got it. I'm just going to say LSU. I don't think I need to explain much on this one.
All right. I think Army's going to play pretty good ball here. I mean, that triple option might give LSU some fits early on. But like you're saying, LSU's got too much talent, really too much of explosive offense to lose this game. So, yeah, Tigers big. All right, next one here, we got a Pac-12 battle as the Utah Utes play the USC Trojans. And this game has a lot of meaning to USC. Not only because they lost to Notre Dame last week, but also because their 2 losses a year ago, if you remember, well, 3 technically, if you count the bowl, which, I mean, it's on there, but 2 main losses in the regular season both came to Utah. They lost the regular season game and they lost in the Pac-12 championship game to Utah. Utah knocked them out of the playoffs a year ago. USC needs a bounce back win after the Notre Dame ass kicking. Will it happen, Chooch? Does Utah have the power to knock off USC? What do you say? I can't hear you.
Muted again. I only have Rising's quarterback. I had a sneeze and okay, there we go. It was coming. That's what I was waiting for. Anyways, yeah, I think if Rising's playing, Utah's got it. But if quarterback plays any better than what it was the first half of the season, they also could do it too. Because as we saw last week, USC can't do anything when they face a decent defense. So, but with that being said, I'm taking Utah. I'm taking Utah.
Ooh. All right, I'm gonna go opposite side of the fence here. I'm gonna go USC. It's at home. Caleb Williams has a bounce back game, and I don't think Utah has the pieces this year to win this type of a game. I think their defense will keep them in it, but ultimately SC pulling it out. All right, next one here we got an ACC battle as the Clemson Tigers take on the Miami Hurricanes. And for both of these teams, it's been kind of a similar year. Both 4-2. Clemson's losses came to Florida State and to why am I having Duke, thank you. I could not think for the life of me. And then Miami back losses. They had that dumb moment against Georgia Tech that ended up costing them big. And then North Carolina, they played them tooth and nail, but Carolina just had too much firepower to win that game. Clemson's a 3-point favorite. What do you say, Chooch? It's kind of a 50-50 across the board.
See, I don't think it's very 50-50. I think Miami's offense kind of has the USC problem where once they face a halfway decent defense or they can't really explode over the top, they're done. And I think Clemson's going to contain that this game. I think they're a better team than they were when they lost to Duke. So I'm taking the Clemson Tigers here.
All right, I like that. I'm gonna go with you here. I think Clemson wins this game, and I think it's again, and I've said this I feel like every week that Miami was featured. It's a coaching thing. Dabo Sweeney's a better coach than Mario Cristobal. Heck, I think most coaches in the ACC are better than Cristobal. He's a joke, like I said. So yeah, give me Dabo to outcoach Mario Cristobal. That'll be the difference. Clemson wins this thing by 13. All right, next one here. We got a Pac-12 battle, UCLA versus Stanford. And both of these teams are really, really interesting. UCLA coming off of a loss last week to Oregon State. Some people saw that coming because it was in Corvallis. Some people thought UCLA could power through the weirdness. Chip Kelly had his team ready, but they didn't. And Stanford did what Stanford does. Nobody picked them to beat Colorado, yet behold, they came back. And a 29-0 halftime lead was blown. Stanford has a tendency of winning these type of games, but did they use all their magic up beating Colorado last week? Or can lightning strike twice for the Stanford Cardinals? What do you say?
I'm just gonna say it right now. Stanford ain't striking lightning twice. The team ain't good enough yet. So I'm gonna take UCLA here. I know they lost last week by 12 to Oregon State, but just something says Bruins bounce back. It's gonna be a slow start. Bruins bounce back against Stanford.
Wow, you nailed it. Everything I was gonna say. Stanford comes out in this game hot, playing with fire because of last week, but UCLA and Chip Kelly just too good to lose this type of a game. So Bruins. Our next one here, we got an ACC battle as Duke takes on Florida State. Florida State obviously undefeated, looking pretty good. They have some really dominant wide receivers. Jordan Travis is playing pretty good. Benson, the running back, has carried quite the load. The defense has played good. There really isn't a weak part of this team, and they showed it last week against Syracuse, 41-3 at home. Don't sleep on the Duke team, however. They beat NC State. They played good. They kind of took away any hope for NC State early in the game. NC State fans were not happy, to say the least. But ultimately, people don't seem to care about how Duke is doing this year, how good they are, how they did pull an upset early in the year. They could pull an upset here. Florida State's a 14.5-point favorite at home. This kickoff 6:30. What do you say, Juge?
So I want to say Duke's going to hang on for a very long time in this game. Florida State has a habit of just letting these teams in for a long time, and just Duke's just good enough. But I think Florida State's defense is too good, and Florida State's defense is going to win them this game. So I'm taking the Seminoles.
I'm going Florida State with you, but for a different reason. I'm going Florida State, and Jordan Travis is the reason. He's the difference maker that wins this one late for the Noles. He is one of the best players in the country. I don't care what anybody says. Him and that big wide receiver Coleman are so fun to watch. So yeah, give me the Noles. They continue to impress, and they improve the record to 7-0 and 5-0 in ACC play. Don't let that go unnoticed. Yeah. When's the last time? Like 2013, I think, was the last time we could say that.
Oh, I had Duke's.
All right, now to the game that.
Sorry.
Oh, it kind of clipped there.
Yeah,
Duke
it did.
5-1, by the way.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. Where is the last half of that record?
Well, now to the game that everybody's been waiting for. We got a Big Ten showdown, big ranked matchup. Penn State comes in the horseshoe. Penn State ranked pretty high for a team that has not as many huge wins as you'd like to see. Their biggest win came against Iowa up to this point in the season. Ohio State, they've had nothing but big wins, it seems, as they played Notre Dame. They ended up beating them. They played Maryland, who was kind of a trap game. A lot of people thought, hey, myself included, watch out for this game. They'll win. They didn't win. Ohio State won. And they have just continued to win games or find weird ways to win games. Now, I do want something to be known before making this pick. James Franklin has had a track record of losing this type of game. Penn State gets hyped up. They get national media coverage. They're all jumping. They're number 7 in the land. And then they meet Ohio State or Michigan. The train dies. The team falls off. It's been the unfortunate trend for Franklin and the Nittany Lions. However, they believe in this Drew Aller quarterback. They say this is the guy that can push us over the edge to finally beat Ohio State, to finally beat a Michigan. First quarterback since a guy named Trace McSorley. Some Penn State fans will remember that guy a little bit. Chooch, where are you going? Will the same story repeat itself, or will this be the time for James Franklin and company to get the hump?
I wanted to be James Franklin's time, but I mean, Ohio State's blowing both of our expectations out of the water. We at least expected 1 or 2 losses by this point in the year, maybe even 1. But they don't have it. The team's actually playing a lot better than we thought. They beat Notre Dame. Penn State, who have you played except for Iowa?
No one. I mean, Massachusetts.
Hold on, I gotta find a team. Hold on. Oh, wait, never mind. Oh, it's only Iowa. UMass got called up way too early to the FBS. I don't even know why they're a thing. Oh, we're undefeated. We beat them 63-0. Yeah. Okay, and you practically beat a second-rate FCS team at this point. UMass is the worst call-up that we've had from the FCS in a while. Don't know how they made it through their 2-year probation period, but they're awful. Awful. Northwestern, not good. Illinois, yeah. Delaware, I watched that game. You kind of struggled to move yards against a smaller defensive front. You're in for a hell of a shot against Ohio State. Also, you barely beat a West Virginia team, which had awful quarterback play at that moment in time. So I'm taking the Buckeyes here. I don't want to, but Buckeyes over them Lions.
Oh man, you just couldn't let them off easy. You couldn't give them hope Come on,
Dude, I gotta
Shooty.
light the torch today, dude. It's one of those days.
Come on. All right. Let's do this thing. We are Penn State.
Fox
Yeah.
Sport.
We we love you, Penn State. You're great. You got the Nittany Lion as the mascot. You got James Franklin as the head coach. He's done pretty good since coming from Vandy. Drew Aller, man, he's an amazing quarterback. I love watching that kid play, right? He's got a big arm. He can run. He can scramble. This is the guy.
Oh, not me.
That's the guy right there, except this year. He's not there yet. James Franklin is going to show the world what he always does. Chokes in the big moment. I'm going with Ohio State and Ryan Day. There's no way that Ohio State loses this game. James Franklin is going to do something idiotic, and Ohio State will win. I'm sorry, Penn State fans. You're trapped in an eternal purgatory at the moment. I mean, at least on this earth at the moment. Just being a Penn State fan, I mean, I guess you could call it hell, whatever you want to call it, where it's like, yeah, we're going to win. We're going to do something. We're ranked high. And then you play one of Ohio State or Michigan, sometimes even Iowa, and the train dies. So, yeah, we're not going to see anything new here. Buckeyes. All right, and that is going to do it for the show, this Week 8 edition. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Obviously, always a pleasure to have Chooch with me. We wish we could have Jacob, but
he's broken.
He's
a broken chair. He is a broken chair.
He's quite literally a broken chair.
He's a broken chair. He started out as a fan, and now he's the... I'm just kidding. He was a brainstorm.
He's the literal mascot.
Oh,
see, we planned this.
Yes, right. Let's roast him at the end of the show.
This was the plan from day one. Yeah,
he's gone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Enjoy your college football Saturday, and God bless you all in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Peace.